For topic 2, we're going to look at dividing decimals when the divisor is a decimal. So remember, just as a quick recap, we have 12 divided by 3 equals 4. 12 is the dividend. It's the number being divided. 3 is the divisor. It's the number doing the dividing. And then, of course, 4 is our quotient. Okay? So we know how to divide decimals when the divisor is an integer. We learned that in the previous video. But we don't know how to divide decimals when the divisor is a decimal. Okay, so we have to find a workaround for that. Okay, so the steps for dividing decimals when the divisor is a decimal. We move the decimal in the divisor to the right until it's an integer. So we're basically creating a situation where we no longer have a decimal in the divisor. But here's the thing. If I move the decimal in the divisor, I have to compensate in the dividend. So then we move the decimal in the dividend the same number of times to the right. And then we follow the steps for division just like we did in the first topic. Okay? So let's look at this first example. And I'm going to do the side work up here beside the steps. So for example 2, it says find each quotient. And I have negative 1.976 divided by negative 0.16. So let's think of that kind of in fraction form. Okay? So if I have negative 1.976 divided by negative 0.16, I could write it like this in fraction form. And what we're being told is we're being told convert your divisor to an integer. Okay, well, that's fine. So essentially, I need to move my decimal to the right twice, which we know is secretly multiplying by 100. If I multiply by 100, each zero in my power of 10 allows me to move my decimal to the right once. So by multiplying my denominator by 100, I get negative 16, which is great. I could divide by negative 16. The issue is if I've multiplied my divisor by 100, I no longer have a comparable equivalent problem. So to make this comparable, I have to also multiply the dividend by 100, because then what I'm doing is I'm secretly multiplying this whole thing by some weird form of 1, which isn't changing its value, it's just changing its appearance. It's making it useful for us. So since I moved my decimal in my divisor twice, I need to move my decimal in my dividend twice. So I'm going to move it twice, which makes this negative 197.6. And now we have an equivalent problem. It certainly looks different than what we started with, but it is equivalent to negative 1.976 divided by negative 0.16. Okay, so now we can kind of understand why we're moving those decimals. Okay, so for part A, let's first just deal with our signs. So negative divided by negative is always going to be positive. So I'm going to go ahead and set a place for my final answer. And we don't generally write the positive with positive answers, but I'm going to put that positive there as a reminder to us that, hey, our final answer is going to certainly be positive. And then we're just going to set up for long division, okay? Now remember, we've moved the decimal in the divisor twice and in the dividend twice. So what we're really dividing is 197, I just about wrote it wrong. What we're really dividing is 197.6 by 16. And we want to follow the steps like we did in topic 1. So just bring your decimal point up into your quotient, and then we start dividing. So 16 won't go into 1, but it will go into 19. So 16 will go into 19 one time. 1 times 16 is 16. So I subtract 16. 19 minus 16 is 3. And I drop down the next digit in line, which is a 7. So now, how many times will 16 go into 37? Well, let's see. 16 times 2 is 32, so that's as close to 37 as I'll get. So 2, and then 2 times 16, of course, we know is 32, so I subtract. I get a 5. Drop down a 6. Well, let's see. How many times will 16 go into 56? I know that 16 times 3 is 48, so that's as close to 56 as I'll get without going over. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 up here. Well, 3 times 16 is 48. Okay. So let's see. 56 minus 48 is going to be what? 8. And remember, our goal is a 0 remainder. Okay. So in order to get that 0 remainder, we're going to have to keep dividing. Okay. So I want to add a 0 to my 197.6. It doesn't change its value. It just gives me another layer to divide. I'm going to drop down my 0, Okay. And it just so happens that 16 will go into 80 exactly 5 times. Okay. So 16 times 5 is 80, and there's my zero remainder. Okay, so with a little bit of tweaking, we set up a problem that we knew how to divide by creating a divisor that was an integer. We divided, we already checked our signs. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my final answer is 12.35. So 0.16 will go into 1.976, 12.35 times. Okay? Now let's look at the next example. So for the next example, I have 1.404 divided by negative 0.54. So we want that dividend, or not the dividend, we want the divisor to be an integer or a whole number, okay? So I need to move my decimal to the right twice, which is like multiplying by 100. But if I do that to the divisor, I have to do that to the dividend as well. So I'm going to move to the right twice. So what this is really equivalent to is 140.4 divided by 54. And just don't forget that the 54 is negative. Okay, so now I'm taking a positive, I'm dividing it by a negative. I know my final result is going to be negative. Okay, so I've already dealt with the signs. Off when I do my side work, I don't have to worry about the signs anymore. So let's set this up. We've got 140.4 divided by 54. Don't forget to bring your decimal up into your answer, okay? Now, 54 will not go into 1. It will not go into 14. It will go into 140. So 54 times 2 is 108. So 108, that's as close as I'm going to get to 140 without going over. So we'll say 54 goes into 140 twice. 2 times 54 is 108. So let's see, 140 minus 108 is 32. We want to drop down the next digit in line, which is a 4. So let's see if we can figure out how many times approximately 54 will go into 324. So 50 is really close to, or 54 is really close to 50. 324 is really close to 300. So let's kind of estimate how many times do we think 50 would go into 324? And the answer is about 6. So let's see if this is about 6. Well, 50 will go into 300 exactly 6 times, but let's go ahead and estimate over here. Or not estimate, but do a little side work. So let's think that we are, or let's say I can't even talk right now. Let's say that we think 54 is going to go into 324 6 times. So let's go ahead and off to the side multiply 54 by 6 just to see. So let's see, 6 times 4 is 24. So I keep a 4, I carry a 2. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 2 is 32. So that tells me that 54 goes into 324 exactly 6 times. So I put 6 up here. 6 times 54 is exactly 324. So we get our zero remainder. That tells me we're done. We already checked our signs. We know that a positive divided by a negative is negative. So our final answer is negative 2.6. Okay, so that's it. That's how you divide decimals when the divisor is an integer, and then again when the divisor is a decimal. Okay, so when the divisor is a decimal, remember our plan is to convert it to an integer by moving the decimal point. Just don't forget, whatever you move the decimal point to in the divisor, you have to mimic that in the dividend. Okay.